Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the DadBod Podcast, brought to you by the Outspoken Network. It's your hosts, Brian and Caleb. Caleb, buddy, how's it going?
It's going good. Just in my basement bunker, in my half basement bedroom, which is now turned into my cave that I hide from my children.
Okay.
And now there's a camera in it.
Everyone's got to have that getaway in their own home where no one can find you.
Or you just run out the front door screaming. Either one
Yeah,
works.
either one works. All right, guys. Well, this is going to be a podcast. It's new, brand new episode 1 here. It'll be titled Life Balance, as we're going to talk about that in a little bit here. But I wanted to first introduce ourselves. Caleb, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Well, I'll start with what the focus is of kind of what we talk about. So I've been married for 10 years, happily married until tomorrow when I anger my wife again. We have 3 wonderful little monsters that happen to be related to me. I have the basic mixture that most families have when you have more than 1 or 2 kids. You have the really smart one that's a perfectionist. You have the crazy, hilarious one. And then, unfortunately, I have the carbon copy of me. So I tell him repeatedly that he just needs to learn to be funny because looks are not on his side.
Oh, ouch.
And then he's like, Dad. And then his face turns red. And I'm like, yeah, just be prepared. Let's see. I'm 35 years old. I've messed up a lot. Being a dad is hard. Being a husband is hard. Being at all not terrible at those things is basically impossible.
My name's Brian. I've been happily married for 12 years. Got 4 girls. I'm your typical, not typical, I guess, but I'm a girl dad. Most of the time my toenails are painted type of thing. So I just went to a daddy daughter dance the other night.
Yeah, it made me
So
look bad. Thanks for that.
yeah, get out on the dance floor, Caleb. Show them those robot moves. Me and Caleb go back middle school, beginning of high school, like
I want to say
9th
about
grade.
22 years.
Yes.
I think you were 14 and I was 13 when we met.
Tell them how old we are without telling them how old we are. But no, this is going to be a podcast where we come on here and talk about being a father, being a husband, um, just life, what we suck at, how to get maybe a way that we could be better at it. So jump on and hope you guys enjoy the ride and just have a kind of a little bit of a maybe vent sessions every now and then. I don't know.
That's what this is. I don't want to pay for therapy.
right. Should I be charging you or? All right, guys, let's get into it here. The first episode this first episode is life balance, and balance in life is very difficult, and it's always been an interesting topic to me is in how people balance their lives, how they juggle being a father, being a a husband or a wife, or work life balance. Everyone brings that out. um every job says that we have a perfect work life balance, and you get in it and you find out that is all a lie. um you got to juggle being friends, you got to juggle your mental health and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about kind of ways that we've found that work for us. We're going to talk about some things that we failed at, maybe we tried, didn't work out too well. But I think um balance in life, first you got to figure out your goals, what's important to you. Caleb, what are some goals, what were some goals that are very important to you, or I guess your priorities as well play all into it. But
So I tell this story a lot. So I supervise some younger guys that are in their early 20s, some married, some not married. And when we talk about their future and their careers and stuff like that, I ask that question, like, what do you want? Because if you want to be a playboy and go party every weekend, good for you. That's your life, not mine. Like, obviously, it's not important for you to do certain things if that's the life you want. Um, I'm the freak because I've always wanted the same thing. Like, when everyone was 10, what did they want when at school when they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I want to be a fireman, police officer, astronaut, something like that. I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted the white picket fence.
The
Um,
American dream.
I wanted the American dream from 1955, even though it was 95. But um,
Born in the wrong era, buddy.
but see, the problem is when people say that, then all of a sudden you're like, wow, there's a lot of really bad laws back then. So um, I'm actually comfortable with being born now. I'm just good with being a grumpy old man in a 35-year-old man's body. Um, I like I dress like this literally all the time, and everyone makes fun of me. I'm like, I have found my look.
We
This
got the
is
old man flannels on.
I have the flannel, the pants. I don't have white New Balance anymore, so give me some credit there. But um, so having that goal ever since I was a kid, everything I had I mean, you remember when we turned like 20, our high school girlfriend phase was kind of over. And I remember sitting down talking to you about we're thinking of becoming police officers. And you like for me, I was like, all right, if I'm going to be a police officer and get all the things that I want, I have to make a certain amount of money. I have to have a certain amount of things, whatever. And that was probably the first time that little goal set equation changed something in my life, because I remember I was like, dude, let's join the military. And you were like, no.
No, it was terror. Not for me.
Yeah. And that's fine. But like, I started getting sold on it, and it was all for, the picture was in my head. And then, a few years later, I met my wife, Kelsey. And then not long after that, we started having kids. And um, the goals have never changed. But what changes is you realize that, well, the house isn't really that important. The white picket fence isn't that important. What
Right.
you find is, because the failed relationships along the way, before you meet your spouse, you figure out, okay, that picture in my head is of a partner, a best friend, somebody you can dedicate your life to and dedicates their life back to you, someone that you want to build a family with. And those goals, I can honestly say, have never changed for me. And when I have these conversations with people, I tell them, you gotta, like, I'll ask, what do you want? And they're like, that standard, like, idiot dude answers, like, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like, do you want to have a family? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to travel the world? Like,
What kind of life do you want to live?
do
Yeah.
you want to sit on a couch and do nothing with your life and eventually die lonely? Like, pick something.
Pick something.
Like,
Figure it out, man. I totally agree with you that you got to kind of have a sense of direction where you want to go, and then you learn how to work towards that goal. And I tell people, and I'm gonna tell my kids this: the hardest thing, one of the hardest things to do in life after you graduate high school is to figure out what you want to do for the rest of it. But you got to have somewhat of an idea of where you want to be, and see, and it's funny because me and you have kind of the same priorities or the same kind of goals, and we took two different paths to get there, right? We both wanted to be police officers. I think it, and that part of me back in the day, I wanted to be someone that made a change in the world, right? Um, and then when you said join the military, I said, no, that's not for me.
nope.
I don't want to be screamed at, so I'm good. Um, and my life has gone in a direction of this is what I want. You know, I wanted a wife, I wanted the kids. I didn't know how I was gonna get there, but I worked my butt off for it. At one point, I had three jobs to make money, and then I I worked one job that paid more than the three combined. I'm like, okay, this is sweet. I found my wife working there, best friend. Sorry, Caleb. Um, we get married, and
I like Kelsey more than you. It's
yeah,
okay.
it's okay. But we, yeah. Um, and when when you start having kids, you realize I got, you realize things have changed quite a bit, and now I'm in charge of providing for some little bitty little bitty human being, and
You don't get an option to stop either.
yeah, no, you just work, and whether it be because you had this plan of, okay, I'm going to join the military. This is where I see myself. This is how I'm going to get there. To whereas I wanted those same goal, one of those same things, and I was like, okay, well, I've got to keep working. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep trying. And it led me into supervising. It led me into getting my CDL, and now I'm working for Waste Connections, and um, I'm a supervisor there now, and it's great. And um, provided a pretty successful life in my eyes
So I have
um,
a question
for
though.
my kids. Hmm.
So, because I have a feeling, I mean, we've talked to each other through the years of just the fires and the issues we've gone through. So the goals and the priorities of what you want, how you want your house to run, how you want your marriage to be, how you want your kids to be raised. What were some like explosions in life that challenged your decision making that you didn't know which way was up? Because it's easy to say, yeah, this is what I want, I'm going to do it, but that's when there's no roadblocks.
Right.
But when you get fired at work, or um, someone gets sick, or you get sick, or I mean, we could both use the excuse of COVID, like when the
The
world comes to an end,
world shuts down.
like that kind of stuff, where like what's an example where it really challenged, like, man, am I going down the right path with is is a family and kids really what I
Right.
want?
Right. Well, I got tested on really early in our marriage. To tell you a little sad story, which you already know this, but when me and my wife got married, we moved to Utah, and we basically had a honeymoon baby. Wife got pregnant right away. We were excited. I was ecstatic. And the only thing, and I don't know how I knew this, but I just knew when I become a father, I'm gonna be great at it. That's the only for sure fire thing that I was ever at in life, saying when I become a dad, I'm gonna be the best dad I can be. And I just knew it. So I was excited. Well, we ended up losing our first child. We had a stillborn. My wife was 8 months pregnant, and we had a stillborn. Boom. Right when we're starting off our marriage. We were really good friends before we got married, which I think is a huge key out there for all you people that aren't married yet and looking for it. Find someone that you can be really good friends with. Um, that's a different episode down the way, but um,
Important point though.
right, very important point. And that could have shattered our relationship. That trauma could have ended it right there, right? Um, but it didn't, thank God. And we fought together. We fought to save each other. Basically, we were each other's rocks during that hard time, and um, I just knew. Well, that one's a kind of a hard one to get through. Like that right there is like talk about a big explosion in life.
Yep.
But I always knew that this is my wife, and we've got to work through it. And um, if I want my ultimate goal, which is kids, and to be happily married, I'm gonna keep fighting for what I want. And
So
so
then
we
here's
went.
a question, because everyone goes through these nuclear explosions. I think yours is probably the example of like the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
But but why do you think men excuse me, men in marriages, with or without kids, just give up when it gets hard. Because
That's a tough one.
I see it a lot.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, we all see it. And
I think
sometimes the other person gives up, but
yeah. And marriage is dying nowadays. I mean, a lot of people that get married, they don't take it serious. They don't they don't take it as serious as we do. There's some people that it's just a piece of paper. I can, I can go to the court tomorrow and get the process started to start over. That's a question I don't think anybody can answer, Caleb. That's a tough one. Do you
well,
have?
I'm
I
asking
mean,
you for your
you're asking
opinion.
me for my opinion. Oh, um,
This is going to be in the record channel.
it's gonna be the
We
record.
will
Yeah,
write books.
off this
We will
podcast
restart the enlightening from
society
the words that
from
are
the
going to be
words that are
spoken.
about to be spoken. Then I don't know if we got the right guy on the other end of this
Gosh,
mic, but um, who I would say it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. That's
so
tough.
I,
That's
I
tough.
I have one, and
Okay, give me
it's
your
very
answer.
mean.
Oh, dang. Okay, well, let's hear it.
So I think there's
Well,
crazy circumstances for everything,
yeah, yeah. I mean, every marriage is
and
different, so
it's
that's why it's tough.
lagging.
Yeah, it is lagging a little bit.
Yeah, but so let's say let's cut out the like she killed somebody. Let's cut
She
out
cheated on some, or she
um
cheated on me.
she cheated with the entire football team or something
It's
like that,
obvious,
right?
that you would, yeah.
Yeah. But what bothers me the most when people give up on marriage with or without kids is when they say this isn't fun anymore. I don't love her anymore. The sex isn't good anymore. There's no energy, there's no life, there's no this,
It's
there's
not
no
based
that.
on what it should
And
be. Those are, you know.
well, right. And to me this is the mean part, but I just count that as you're just a selfish little boy and you never became a man. And I say this because I didn't think I had the ability to get through what I've been through with my wife. So, my not as serious story, but my wife has had health problems like crazy over the past 6 years. And the hardest one that she went through was she lost all her hair. And she struggles like it was so hard for her. And I was terrified internally because the most attractive thing on a woman externally to me is hair. I like long hair. And I was really worried that there would be like a switch in me that would hurt something. And I remember just being there for Kelsey during all this stuff and just looking into her eyes and being like, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Like the things that 10-year-old Caleb or 15-year-old Caleb or even 20-year-old Caleb probably would have cared about, they're not
Yeah.
important. That doesn't mean it was easy. That doesn't mean it wasn't challenging, but you make a decision. I don't know if you remember this. The ring is upstairs. I remember that cross ring I used to
Yeah.
wear. And I used to say, "Be
Yeah.
a man."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's so true, and I've tried to stick to that because men don't do things that are easy. They do things that are hard. And what's hard is, hey, this isn't fun anymore. Well, why not? Well, we're not really attracted to each other. We don't really, we're not intimate anymore. So, what's that have to do then? And what are you doing to
Yeah.
fix it?
I think the bigger
Like,
question is that second part. What are you doing to fix it? And that's a huge part when it comes to marriage. And when you get married, you have to put away the selfish part. And it's hard. you're gonna have some fights on it. I guarantee you. Even when you're dating, you're gonna have some fights
Yep.
on selfishness, and you got to put away your. I mean, I still fight with my. You still have those battles. Just because you get married, you're married for 12 years, doesn't mean it's hard. Doesn't mean it's easy. It's hard to put away your selfish, you know, selfish ways sometimes, but you do it for the betterment of your team.
It's hard,
That's what she
and
said.
it takes effort. And this is why it's important to know what you want, because the last thing you want to do when you're tired with work, as my camera goes out of sync, the last thing you want to do when you're tired with work, and especially if your intimate life is cold and you're in a dry spell, is to put extra work into reviving something that doesn't seem to be paying any
Right.
dividends right now. That's the last thing you want to
Right.
do. There's no natural energy that's like, you know what? You know what's motivating? Talking about your feelings and the issues.
Most men don't
Especially
do
when
that.
work's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And especially when the babies are screaming and um yeah. So what it comes down to, here's an example. Um when Kelsey was going through a lot of stuff, I was going to full-time college. My job had a lot of stuff going on, and it requires a lot of brain power to kind of think through the problems at work. And we had 3 kids, 2 in diapers, and Stella was a demon at 4 years old. Like demon baby. She just uh, very hard to handle at her when she was younger.
Everyone has one of
Everyone's
those.
got one. Um,
That's Annabelle for us.
and that's when Kelsey's health started to turn, and I had to decide work's not important because I was working for a promotion. I was working really hard, and I had a lot of momentum, and I had to stop. I had to pause my bachelor's degree. Didn't take classes for like 6 months. Every night I would come home from work and we would sit on the couch, cuddled, watching TV. Because that's all she needed. She just needed me to be there. And I wanted to be there. I can't solve any problems. It didn't fix anything for our relationship at the time. But those are the times where you have to decide, all right, this is this is what I've decided to do. This is my goal. This is the life I signed up for, and I'm going to see it through, even if that means it's hard, even if that means it's frustrating. And
Even if it feels like you got to put yourself on the back burner a little bit,
yep,
right? And this is kind of something I wrote down just a little bit ago. We make sacrifices in life, right? When you have when you're not single anymore and you're married and you have kids, you make sacrifices. But those sacrifices, they don't they're not like they're sacrifices, but they don't feel like sacrifices if your priorities are aligned. If 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 I got to put myself on the back burner for my wife's sanity,
yep,
you know what I mean? If I got to miss going out with the boys because my kids have a daddy daughter dance on Friday and that's more important to me, then that's what I do. And you've got to want to put that extra effort in. People that have been married a long time. I've been married 12 years, and that which is awesome. Um, Nowadays, people think that's a long time because you know what I'm saying. My in laws just celebrated their 50-year anniversary. That's a long time. It takes work. It takes hard work. It takes putting yourself second, third, fourth, last, whatever it is, and making it work because that's your priorities. If you have your priorities aligned and you stay focused, and sometimes it's going to take that. And when you talk about life balance, that's what I kind of think about, Caleb, is you're juggling balls, right? You got your sanity, your wife's sanity, your wife, your kids, each kid, your work. And life and it changes, so balance will change. One week you're doing this, the next week could be something else. 2 years from now, it could be something else. And um, I think as far as men go, it's picking up on the signs. For me, picking up when I can tell my wife's getting irritated and she needs a break. I'm like, all right, what can I do to give that to her?
You
What?
you quickly turn into like this uh, sign whisperer where you can just feel the wind,
Yeah,
and you're like, she needs a hug.
yeah.
That's what's happening right now.
It sometimes takes me a little bit, longer than she might need, but I'm there, right? Now, what we do in our marriage, and I highly recommend doing it, is we call it a mommy day or a daddy day. If I can tell my wife is stressed the heck out and she's on wit's end, and I'm like, okay, she hadn't had a break in a while. I'm like, go have a mommy day this Saturday or whatever. I'm gonna take care of the kids. You go do what you want. Go get your nails done. Go to the movies. Go eat by yourself. Get that alone time where you can relax. And then she comes back refreshed, and she'll do the same thing for me. If I'm stressed, whatever, hey, go have a daddy day. Cool. I'll take full advantage of it. I'll go to the movies. Yes, I'll go to the movies. I love the movies. I'll go by myself. I don't care. I'll go eat by myself. I don't care. Just that time to get away where you're not having to care for everybody else and think about everybody else before yourself, um, can be a lifesaver in a marriage. Definitely. Um, but it's about taking those, feeling where you're needed, and then kind of putting that time in. And like you said earlier, you had to put work on the back burner, which can be hard because you want to move up, you want to do all this stuff, but things over here were kind of struggling, so you put yourself more over there, and balancing life is just that, and it can be difficult. It can be very difficult to do, and it's forever changing. It's changing when your kids get older and they hit, especially hit their teenage years. I Darla had to go buy bra. I started buying bras for Darla, and she's going to be at that point in time where she's starting that time of the month coming up, and it scares the crap out of me. But and I tell Darla, I told her today we went out and um I had to take her to go pick out a band instrument because she's starting middle school next year. She picked that she wanted to be band, so we had to go try an instrument out. Took her to Taco Casa for lunch, and I told her, when you become a teenager, you still gonna love me? You're still gonna be my best friend. And I made her pinky promise me because when they get older, they're gonna change. I know, but life balance is always an ongoing thing. But
Well, and I don't. So I never believe that balance means equal. I've
right,
heard that before, where on a given day I can work 8 hours. I can make sure Kelsey is sane and I'm sane and the kids feel loved and the bills are paid and I get to go to work out and I get to do some reading and I have time to chill and I get to talk to my family. Like, there's not enough hours in a day. There's
no,
not enough hours in a week. There's not enough hours in a month. What it comes down to is those priorities. And
mhm,
sometimes it's 100% one of the kids because the kid is sick.
yeah,
And the other two kids have to see, like, hey, like, Jameson's sick. He gets more attention right now. You guys got this, right? We're all a team here. And when it comes to the marriage, there's sometimes where marriage, like the relationship, is at a zero because someone's parents sick, or
right,
sometimes you can be the number one priority. So a good example is when there was like a 6 month stretch where I was taking full time college. I was taking um, or yeah, six classes at the same time in a 2 month period. Uh, I was running like a community event, and I was volunteering at my local church. So I was like tapped out doing all this stuff. but all of it was kind of for me, like it was projects that I wanted to do. It wasn't necessarily important to, like, it was important to Kelsey, but if I didn't get a degree, it's not like Kelsey, her life would massively change.
Right.
And when that happens, guess what? I get home from work, I have to go into the office and study. I when I go to work, I'm only thinking about work, and I don't send texts, I don't take lunches, I don't come home, I don't get to be home on time. And that's a sacrifice where now Kelsey has to, like, she basically has to take all the weight of everything I'm doing. She has to pay all the price of putting the kids to bed and dealing with runny noses, dealing with, little kid things and all that. And that's the balance of, sometimes it's in my favor, sometimes it's in hers, sometimes it's in the kids.
Right.
And
100%.
that open communication of, hey, I can't do this for another 2 months, or I got you this month. Like, do what you got to do. I I think this goes back to my other question, where people give up on their marriage because it's hard,
Yeah.
and they want the equilibrium, they want that balance completely in their favor, but they don't realize that your spouse might support. They might give everything they got to you, and they're waiting for you to communicate, "Hey, I see how much you've been supporting me. I'm going to support you back." And they never do. So then that spouse gets,
It
they
feels like
feel
she's
used,
given, and or and you're taking, but
and
that's
people don't want to be honest about it.
yeah.
Like,
People don't just just a different breed nowadays.
me and Kelsey have had this fight many times, where, like, I'm a again, I'm fairly old fashioned. I'm a man of duty. Duty.
He said
Um,
duty.
I I said this actually to a coworker the other day. Just because I'm unhappy doesn't eliminate my responsibility as a father and a husband. Just
Right.
because I'm stressed or sad, or just because life is hard, just because our marriage is not going well, it's not great right now, that kind of thing. That doesn't mean I get to stop paying the bills. That doesn't mean I get to stop hugging my kids and telling them I love them. Because what happens a lot is especially men, and this is why I get peeved about it, is men will, their lives will get hard, and then they'll shirk their responsibilities, their duties. It's like, you don't get that choice. Your life is hard. Bills still need to be paid. Your life is hard. Your kids don't have to carry that weight. That's your job. But there's a whole generation of men that get into marriage, like you said, where they don't really know what they're getting into. They don't really know the commitment they're agreeing to. And then they have kids, and they're like, yeah, she wanted kids. It's like,
Yeah. Or let's have a kid. It'll fix everything.
oh,
Terrible decision.
kids,
Um,
kids wreck everything.
Kids don't make things better for your marriage.
Nope.
They make your life better, like
Yeah.
but they don't make your marriage even easier.
They make nothing more organized.
More easier, yeah. Nothing.
It doesn't matter
Um,
what it is.
it's insane. We not insane, but we're talking about this right. And I got a buddy of mine who I feel absolutely I feel bad for, and I'm pissed off for, if that makes sense. And I'm not gonna name names, but basically he has 3 kids. His wife decided she wanted a divorce. He he's a guy that um he was in the oil field quite a bit, and she divorced him. And what sh- what shocked me, it didn't shock me, but it shocked me. And let me tell you why. It didn't shock me because the way that she talked and the way that they talked, I'm like, I don't know if they're meant to be together, kind of thing. Like, that's just kind of weird. Maybe that's just the relationship, right? I'm not gonna judge, but whatever. Each their own. So I talked to them one week, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come back from oil, or I bought a trailer. My family's gonna travel with me, and um, my kids are gonna come, because he would go to Colorado or go to Nevada or Utah or wherever, and his family's gonna travel with him, and then we're gonna be there with him, and to the next week of she wants a divorce, doesn't want to be married to him anymore, never loved him, all this BS, right? And that's the struggle with being a man is, well, I got to provide for my family, so I got to work. Well, you're not home enough. Okay, well then I'll come home and we can. What? No, you need to make this money. Well, what do you want from me then?
Which one you want?
What do you want? You can have both. It's
Well,
actually happened to another buddy of mine too. Same thing is is same exact thing. And I'm like, man, that is so unfair and ridiculous. You can't, you making all the money. His wife, this is a different subject. His wife didn't have to work. He he went to a different job to have a better work life balance. Then she had to get a job, and now she's mad at him. Wants a divorce because I'm used to a certain lifestyle. You don't provide that for me anymore. But then when he was doing that lifestyle, oh, all you do is come home and sleep. You don't have time for the. What do you want? And what do you want? That I get mad at. I get mad at that. But
well, so why? I think there's a couple things to address with that. So I think the easy one for all men to do is be like, well, they have unreasonable expectations, and um, they like for the wife in this situation, like she needs to be more understanding that things are hard. But you ever heard of a book called Extreme Ownership?
mm-mm.
So it's a book by a military guy, lots of experience in battles and things like that, and it's like owning the problem. So if you're a manager and somebody makes a mistake, one of your guys makes a mistake, who made the mistake? The guy did, but who owns that mistake? The boss.
Yeah, El Jefe.
So yeah, El Jefe.
El Jefe.
Um, in the case of a marriage, and again, this is old fashioned. I'm sure the world will probably think I'm a terrible person for saying. I do believe that is what me and Kelsey at least agree on in our marriage, that we make decisions together. I'm an idiot if I do not take her advice and take her counsel when we're making big decisions. But regardless of what the decision is, if it was her idea, if she swayed me or I swayed her, or whatever decision is made, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's my fault. When women have, because I've heard this many times, when women have unreasonable expectations, the first thing society does or normal men do is they look at the wife. I look at, was the man honest about his capabilities? Because I know that I've lied in my life because you're too scared to admit, hey, I can't sustain this lifestyle. I did this to woo you. I worked really hard to make a lot of money so I could take you out on nice dates and buy you nice things. I didn't think this would be a forever thing, and now I realize I'm trapped. And she feels that she was lied to because, yeah, when we were dating, somehow you could balance it all. Like you could work all these hours and still have enough energy to be romantic and all this kind of stuff. But it's like running a sprint. It's really easy when you're young and you're dating. Like you can
Yeah.
ask Kelsey.
Ugh.
Ask Kelsey of the conversation I had with her because I had been I was a lot more experienced. I had a lot more self respect by the time I met her. Um, but obviously, the first month or two or three, I took her on nice dates. We went all over the place. I never talked about money, never mentioned it, but my wallet was like moths were flying out. So knowing I really liked her, knowing that I will go bankrupt in a month if I keep this up. And knowing what I wanted her in the picture of that white picket fence life that I've been wanting for years. And it was a very important question of requirements or priorities for her. I just said like, hey, like we can't go on these nice dates anymore. I want to do more like picnic things and save money because I just can't afford to take you out every night that we see each other. And I knew Kelsey was the one because her response was, "I'm so sorry. I don't want to go." She
Stop
wanted to
spending
reassure
money
me that she wasn't around because she was, I was taking her on dates and buying her flowers, and she wasn't around for that. That was icing on the cake for her. But that was a hard thing to do because I was risking this beautiful girl that I was winning over. I was risking that I was going to lose her. And this is where when we talk about these guys that the wives get frustrated because was the man ever honest? Did he ever just say, "Listen, I will die for you, but I'm dying right now. I can't sustain the world that you want me to sustain." But instead of saying it as far to the left as possible, as far early in the relationship that, hey, I just can't do it. I can't be the perfect sitcom dad. I can't.
the
It's
Carl
not
Winslow's.
real. What I can do is I will make sure that the kids can afford that we're going to afford braces when we need to, that the car will run, that the house will have utilities and will have a place to live, that we won't be wondering which kid goes to, which kid gets shoes. But sometimes that means I have to work late. Sometimes that means for months at a time, I don't get to be romantic. But instead of waiting for her to get frustrated, that's just the reality of it. And then she gets frustrated, and then the man he can't find it in his own pride to say, I suck. Then the wife just, fine, you're lying to me. And then this is where that rift comes in. And then what happens is the man feels like it came out of nowhere. When in reality, it was there the whole time. It was an unreasonable expectation that he built to woo her. And she lived off that expectation. Now, she has, like, in those relationships, they have everything to blame as well. They're adults, they're humans, have a soul, and ask the freaking question. But again, at least how I think, extreme ownership, that's where you have to be honest. Hey, I want all these things, but I'm not Superman. I'm, well, okay, I'm not Batman. He's got all the money.
I think that I think all these, life balance and your priorities and everything, and a lot of the two is your definition of what success is. You know what I mean? Your definition of success and my definition of success could be completely different, right? um, my definition of success is: do I get a roof over my kids' head? Do we have food on the table? Are my bills paid? And do I feel like I've given my wife what she needs? That's my definition. I don't care about the world's definition. It's not about I got a big house. I got a fancy car.
You got a
I don't
Bugatti.
I got a Bugatti. I got a 2-story mansion. It's not about that. So I think a lot of that. I mean, some people have those type of worldly, views, and I got to have the next best thing, and it's like I'm good, but priorities play a lot into it. Your goals, what you want in life,
Well,
but you've got to have a mirror. I'm a big believer. You got to have a mirror to look into. and ask those tough questions.
So what's your
Um,
mirror?
yeah. What's my mirror?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really good at having a mirror. Um, um, I think I don't know. I'm like I'm what you could call a realist. I try not to have a my wife calls it being a negative Nancy. I call it being I'm a realist. It's weird because I'm a realist, but I'm also very positive and happy most like
Yeah.
99% of the time. But I'm not all doom and gloom, but I try and be a realist, and I try not to get my expectations so high on things where I don't ever get let down. You know what I mean? You don't just like get let
I think
down on something.
even though we're pretty positive we're not blood related, I think we have the same calculator in our head. So I completely understand.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my wife said, You're so I'm not negative. I'm preparing myself for the reality. But no, I think you've got to have I don't know how to answer your question of what's your mirror, but you do have to have a mirror, and you have to be able to answer the tough questions, especially to yourself. Some people can't do that.
So,
Um,
and maybe I'll rephrase the question. So here's how the world is supposed to.
or oh, sorry, go ahead.
So well, here's
You
how the
cut me
world's
off.
supposed to work. Is your dad was perfect because grandpa was perfect. So therefore, you have exactly perfection to copy and paste. That's how
Yeah,
it's supposed to work. But that's not how it works.
that's not how it works. No.
Is grandpa killed people in World War II or Vietnam, and dad either killed people in Vietnam or careers like, or just got murdered at work for all of his life. Every person on this planet is so just messed up because of our world has just always been messed up. And then go back a couple thousand years and people are getting eaten by bears and lions, and it's like, oh, Timmy's dead. Oh well, all right, we got another Timmy. So, but I use my faith as a mirror a lot lately. There's a lot of studies that finding like-minded men, ones that are your peers, ones that are older than you, that you can ask, hey, when you face this, what did you do? What was your response? Because I think it's a real bad problem with men nowadays is I think part of the reason that men don't want to just deal with the problems is because no one's going to call them out on it. Like I got some really good buddies here um, that when they're going through problems with their kids or their wife or work, that we'll talk to each other on the phone, and I'm just like I think I've said a couple times, I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, no, that's no, I don't agree with what you did. That was not a good move. And they can hang up on me. That's fine. Like they've said it back to me. I've made some dumb mistakes. But what it is that echo chamber in your head where you can convince yourself some pretty stupid stuff for like pure genius. But then when somebody you respect, somebody you care about says that was stupid. Don't listen to your, you know, you know, internal monologue saying that you're a genius, you're a moron. Because when you have those conversations, like, hey, what, like the kind of the case that you're talking about, hey, my wife is really having unreasonable expectations of me. Did this ever happen to you? Oh yeah. Well, I think every wife has unreasonable expectations of their husband. I think that's just encoded. And I truly believe the root cause of that is because we convince them we're perfect. Like we always have a chiseled jaw, and we always buy flowers and open the door, and we don't ever lose our cool, and we always have something snippy and funny to say. Like it's just not true. So we can all relate.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and that's the thing, and with men is a lot of men aren't great with sharing their feelings. They're we're not. I mean, I think I'm more of sensitive man than most. Um, But Caleb, you hurt my feelings.
It's just so beautiful.
um, I don't know. I find myself as pretty interesting when it comes to that because I don't. I mean, I'm a man. I don't care. I'll cry. I don't give a damn. But I'm not no sissy man either. So you know what I mean? Like there's a fine balance of being a man and being okay with feeling emotions.
So,
Actually, well, go ahead.
well, I actually just saw something on this today that, I don't see it as much, but I know it was true. Like, I want my husband to be emotionally, available. I want him to be able to cry. I don't think you do. But the thing that I was watching was you don't want a man that cries over everything.
Yeah, no,
You
definitely.
want a man that can wrestle a lion to the ground, but
Yeah,
when his dad dies or something cuts him deep, you want to be able to see that there's a human underneath that facade. But
yeah,
this is what I'm saying, where we don't get a choice. Like when you decide to be a husband and you decide to be a father, the choice has now been made. There's no going back. There's no like my sister, Danielle, my oldest sister. She said to me, she was going through a rough time, and she said to me, "What? Uh, I just want to crawl under the covers and cry for mom to make the pain go away." She's going through a real tough time, and man, did that cut deep because I knew exactly that feeling where the walls are caving in. You just feel like a terrible, just everything in life is falling apart. And you just want to wake up from this nightmare and be hugged by your mommy like you're a little kid again. And everything is better with one hug. But the truth of the matter is we can feel that. You can feel that you want things to be easy and you want somebody to take this away, but no one's taking it away. And I
yeah,
don't know if you've noticed this. It's something I've noticed probably in the last 2 or 3 years. Nobody cares.
yeah. Oh, and
Like,
that's why I think a lot of men don't share their feelings because who cares? We all sign up. You know, you signed up to be the provider. You sign up to whatever. No one cares. And I think honestly, that's something needs to change. You know, you should be able to have a group of friends where, like me and you, where I can call and tell you how I'm feeling. You know,
I can call you
um,
stupid.
yeah, right. I
No, Brian,
uh,
you shouldn't do cocaine.
yeah. Don't take, don't do drugs, kids. So I'm gonna ask you this question, and then I'll answer it kind of for myself. But through this growing up and learning to balance things, where have you sucked at? Where have you sucked at? Fell short, maybe. Learn from, that tough lesson, maybe, I guess.
Yeah. Um, I think the tough lesson I had to realize, and it's probably why I harp on it a lot, is realizing that I'm not perfect and I shouldn't act like I am. It I was raised in a house that if you're not the best, you're the worst. I was raised um in religion. Church does that. If you're not perfect,
Yeah.
don't let Jesus find out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think that's what the
That's
word
not how that
says.
works, right?
It- I'm pretty sure that's not what Jesus said, but
Right.
um
Be a man.
yeah. But what I a pitfall was I expected a lot of myself and then therefore I expected a lot of others. And when reality set in that no one else cares and no one else cares near as much as I did about certain things, whose fault is that? Is that their fault or is that mine?
That's your fault.
It's my fault. And where this came out in my marriage and with my kids, um, like I created a saying that I taught the kids that Cleveland's don't quit. We don't quit. And I don't mean that like you don't, hey, this isn't for me, move on. But you don't, when it gets hard, you don't just like, I don't want to do it. Like all kids do. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, nope, you don't get this option. We're going to try this. We're going to see it through and then you can stop. That's fine. But especially when the kids were probably like 2 to 5. Oh, my older ones, because with the first two, you're kind of figuring things out still.
Yeah.
But it was about realizing that I don't expect you to be the best. I expect you to do your best. And that's a huge difference where um, I have.
That's knitted on a pillow somewhere in your house, isn't
Live,
it?
laugh, love.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
no, so for like Stella, my oldest, um, she lost in a game on like a Wednesday night service that with a bunch of kids and was just devastated. And I couldn't understand why she was devastated. She was just because she lost. She didn't win the game, and she just the whole world crashed down around her, and it was a
that
huge tantrum fit.
that annoys me when my
It
kids do that. But
it massively annoyed me. Like no, you don't get to throw a fit. And then over the years, because obviously I'm an idiot and I don't catch on to these fast enough, but over the years I realized that's because that's what I did. I did that because they saw how hard I worked. They saw how much I was pouring into work, how much I've got some awards on my walls. They I never told them if you don't get a trophy or if you don't get first place, you're a terrible child and I don't love you anymore. I never said that. But somehow they took, if they're not getting the accolades and they're not driving as hard as dad is, then they're not worthy. And I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I remember came home another night. Stella lost and was freaking out. She lost to her friend, and her friend won first place. And she was so upset that she lost. And I'm like, why are you upset that you lost? You should be happy your friend won. Somebody else can win. That's fine. You tried your best. You didn't get it. So then what I did was I picked her up and I walked her over to the wall where I have some of my coins and stuff. And I talked about the coins that I have. I got some cool stories to go with them. And then I said, you know how many coins are not on this wall right now because I suck? I was like, because I lost. I, I was, for every one of these stories is 100 of things that I messed up, that I didn't win. And then I started telling her those stories of, um, like I sent somebody a memo one time, like an email, and I sounded like a 2-year-old because I didn't proofread myself and I looked like an idiot in front of everybody. Um, I told her the time I flipped over the fence when we were kids.
greatest story of all time.
I thought I was the coolest guy until I flipped
I
over.
still pee my pants laughing at that thing.
But it's about like that pitfall of balance is I was under the impression that the kids could see that I was comfortable with losing, but I had to show them. And when I started doing it on that little micro level, I realized, wow, I'm doing this across my life. Like everything has to be perfect. Even though it's not like I walked around the house with a whip or a white like,
Yeah,
what's
glove.
this dust? Like nothing like that. But because I had to have things perfect for what I did, it raised expectations for everyone else, almost subconsciously. Like Kelsey didn't even bring it up because she didn't even think about it. But the more problems, and she freaks out because she still does a little. I just tell her, I'm like, so what's wrong? I didn't win. What's the big deal? Daddy loses all the time. You tried your best, right? And I think like that shortfall, just complete like in my blind spot, is probably one of the bigger things when it comes to work life balance, because that's when I started to realize I can't do 100% across the board. I can't be 100% a perfect Christian that goes to every service and every potluck and everything for all those people, and be the perfect husband, and be the perfect father to 3 kids, and be the perfect worker, and be the perfect son,
Right.
and be the perfect brother. Can't do it. It's
Right.
impossible. So stop acting like you can and just say, yep, I don't call my parents enough, or I call my best friend like once every year.
Right.
Like,
And
so that would be mine.
and yeah. But that goes with the whole the way I look at it in work life and life, and just balancing life is it changes on the daily. It changes on the weekly. I'm gonna get better at this, and you get better at that, and you fall short somewhere else. Well, all right. Well, let me go. Okay, hold on over here. This kid needs a little more time with me, or oh, hey, maybe this kid needs. Maybe I need to go take her on a daddy daughter date, or when I go to the grocery store every week, I usually go to the grocery store on the weekends. I take one kid each time. Different. It's Darla's turn. It's Phoebe's turn. It's that's way they each get a chance to go to the grocery store, daddy, and they love it. They get a little treat. They come home with some candy. They love it. It's
I
just
literally
the little
just
things.
started that this morning.
It's the little things in life sometimes, especially with kids.
Yep.
But I would say one of mine, in my marriage and stuff would be, s- uh, is it, I guess, sympathetic. Like if I don't go through, well, I don't know if that's really a work life balance thing, but whatever. If I don't go through, like, my wife might be going, she has kind of like hyperthyroidism, where
Okay.
she gets low energy at days where she doesn't feel like moving, getting out of bed. Like if I haven't experienced it, so I'm really easy to kind of not neglect it, but I don't think about it
Yeah.
at first. I'm like, oh, she'll tell me, hey, I'm having not now. Now I know. Okay, when I get home today from work, I need to start. I gotta take the bigger, you know, bite of the apple. What do you want to call it? I need to make dinner. I need to do this. Well, in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know what that is. So, well, I come home. I'm like, it's a little bit of that, me, and a little bit of selfish in my own thoughts and or my own. I had a crappy day, and then she'll tell me she had a crappy day. Well, when I come home from work, she's, oh, hey, here's dinner. How was your day? And sometimes I can fall. Sometimes I don't remember. Hey, she told me she's having a bad day. What did I do for her? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Um,
100%.
so it took a long while, not a long while. It took me a while to figure those things out, or being a girl dad. I got to be more in tune with my emotions. I've got to be, you know what I mean? You do, you definitely do with them. Um, and so that, like, these little things that I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Get over it. As a
Yep.
man, my wife's like, well, this is how we see it. This is how and then I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
But if I don't know about, I'm like, whatever, they'll get over it. But it's just different little things like that, um, that I've worked on, and no one's perfect, so sometimes you still drop the ball on. But
You ever heard of the term emotional intelligence?
not together. I've heard of the two different words, but not together. No.
So, emotional intelligence for a stupid person that likes to give stupid definitions to smart people words. My understanding of it is, are you are you able to think through somebody else's eyes. How
Right.
you say
For sure.
something. So
Right.
I'm a very direct person.
Yeah.
Stop. Go. Clean that up. Pick that up. Go do that. Why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. Use logic. Like that's
Yeah.
how I am.
I'm kind of like that too. Um, and my wife's really the opposite. She's really good at putting herself in their shoes, right? And how they may be feeling about what you just did or what.
Yep.
Um, I think it's a good balance because she's helped me out a lot with that.
That is a learned skill. If it you can learn it, it's not
Yeah.
you don't have to. But I used to suck at it because um again going to that perfectionist thing that I had to learn was I I don't drop balls. Like I don't just not do things. Like they just get it's not an option for me. And if I miss something or if I can't get something done, it eats away at me internally. Like, hey, you didn't do the thing you said you were gonna do. So then I just internal implosion. Other people, they'll just shirk their chores like it's no big deal. So it
Yeah.
just doesn't compute with me. So, and with me and Kelsey or me and the kids, I couldn't understand why. Like Kelsey is the most logical woman I've ever met. Her logic circuits just don't work, and mine only work logic. So there's a straight line, but she'll just do this. But instead of me saying, "Well, why does she go at things a different way?" or "Why do I think this way? Why am I so straight and to the point and all that?" That's the emotional intelligence part. It's about thinking. Just because I like it logical doesn't mean it's the right way. It doesn't. It might be the fastest way. Okay, but the fastest way that ticks everybody off is not the
Yeah.
right way.
Right. And
It's
I
like
was
I can get
thinking
the
that
house
like,
clean faster than anybody.
yeah,
Meanwhile, everyone hates me.
I'm the yeah. It's funny you said it like that because when you get into cleaning, I get my wife calls it the zone, and I'm like, get out of my way. I'm just
Yep.
don't. And it's funny you say that because like sometimes it's how I am, direct. And I don't mean to be rude, I don't mean to be mean. It's just how it comes out. And sometimes I think we do that thinking, boom, you see the job and you just get it done. You're like, I did it. Good job for me. Awesome. But there was those corners that you should have took and you should have, that the wife might see, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
to save someone else's um your kid's feelings or whatever.
Well, to pull at that string a little bit, it's so much harder to teach a kid than it is to do it yourself.
Oh, yes.
But what's more important?
Yes. Teaching your kid.
Like,
And you've got to let them fall. You've got to let them learn those hard lessons
but it takes
sometimes.
so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be done by now. Oh man, it's so true.
You know
Like,
what if I rubbed a lamp and got 3 wishes, okay? One of those wishes would be I wish I had my knowledge that I have now and go back in my life and live it when I was younger. Not that I would change where I'm at, but
just be
my
better at
god, I wanna go to the high schools and be a motivational speaker and tell these kids what you think is important right now does not matter one effing bit.
it. It has no bearing at
N
all.
the clothes you wear, the crap you have, you making fun of this person because it does none of that effing I wanna shake them. Doesn't matter.
Don't
All that
shake the
matters
teenager.
is you get out of school with some type of knowledge how to be an adult and figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life. But anyways, that's a little side point. I got a question for you too, and it kind of I didn't hear about this until probably a couple years ago. Love language.
Okay.
What's your love language? Because I'm like, what is love language? And you know, they explained it to me, and I was like, that actually makes sense
So
because certain people like to be loved certain, different ways, and that plays a lot into balancing your partner's your wife's love language. How do they like to be loved? Am I doing that correctly? Am I showing the right kind of, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
For me and Kelsey, I don't know if this is luck or whatever, but our love language is exactly the same. Words of affirmation and physical touch. So we have a daily ritual. We wake up together. We eat
sacrifice the goat.
what? Sacrifice a goat.
It's a daily
Oh, no, 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 no.
oh,
Cheeseburger, cheeseburger,
cheeseburger.
cheeseburger.
Anyways, sorry. Go ahead.
um, we have we eat breakfast together. Um, I leave at the door. We kiss each other goodbye. Say I love you. Like it, she could walk by the hallway. I'll say I love you. She could, um, we'll be on the phone for like 4 seconds. Hey, buy milk. Love you. Bye. That like positive linkage that we've created that is kind of our validation. That way, like if one of us is super mad and we said like one says I love you and it's like love you too. It's like all right, what's wrong? You're saying goodbye in the morning and the kiss is not as like passionate. It's not. It's kind of like a peck. It's like what's wrong? It it it's a it's how we have learned to stay in sync with each other. And I don't. It's been 10 years, well 12 if you count us dating, and we've always been like this. So I don't know how it would work if we didn't have the same one, because I feel like we'd miss each other. But that's just because me and Kelsey have been doing the same thing. What about you?
See, we're different. Um, my wife is she likes when I like I don't know the technical love language terms, but she likes it when I do things for her.
Oh, acts of kindness,
Acts
acts
of
of service.
She's acts of service, and she's the person who, like, we may not be doing the same thing, but she wants me in the same room with her. Um,
Yeah,
so mine is, or hers is also words of affirmation as well. Like, you sprinkle a little bit of that. I think everyone's kind of like, you want someone that you want. Mine's physical. Like, I like physical touch. I want a hug, a kiss. Um, and that, and probably the acts of kindness. You know, so we're kind of the same on that. Like, if I go, like, my wife's really easy. If I go to the store and I buy her a bag of Reese's because I know she likes Reese's, and she didn't say, "Hey, go buy me." I come home, give it to her. Oh my gosh, you thought of me. That's amazing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, very easy. But it can be difficult sometimes because you got to, that plays into making sure she's good, life balance, and um it is different when because sometimes, like, when my physical touch, when I come home, she's she's
Touched out.
touched out, whatever you want, she's uh, um and she doesn't want me to come home and smack her butt, you know what I mean? Or, come home and just,
You know what you signed up for.
like, right, yeah. um so there are those times where that goes in the back burner, right? For myself, because I can tell that she's just done. Kids have crawled over all day, shouldn't want to be touched. But I also kind of get it too, because sometimes I'm like, get off of me and leave me alone. But so it is different. But I think it's important to understand your wife or husband's um, love language. So
Well, and I think understanding it is it's a temperature gauge to know what the balance needs to be. Because, like you said, like if you've had a terrible day at work
yeah,
and you know, like she knows that you like physical touch, and she goes to hold your hand, and your hand is just like cold. You don't really hold her hand. You don't give her a hug, or you do, and it's just kind of like lackluster. It's a temperature gauge to say, okay, something is really wrong because even on standard bad days, this isn't a big deal. Kelsey has really gotten really good at this. So I'll drive home. I have like a 10-minute commute from work, and I call her as soon as I leave the office,
I did the same thing. Go, hey, I'm on my way home.
and she hears the tone,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she knows like, hey, uh, pick up a pizza because it sounds like it's a pick up a pizza night. Or
It's funny you say
uh,
that.
she'll say, um, why don't you take the rest of the drive to reset, and we'll talk when you get home. And that means so much to me, but that took a decade for us to figure out.
Yeah,
And I think that, like, again, the love languages, I have a feeling we are all over the spectrum as far as, because, like, when you said acts of service, I'm like, you know what? We just talked about this like last week. If Kelsey asked me, like, if I was playing a video game and say, she's like, hey, can you take out the trash? Sure. Just take out the trash. If I ask her, hey, can you get me a glass of water? Sure. She gets me a glass of water.
yeah,
Like, there's no, like, oh, I don't want to. It just, sure.
yeah, yeah,
Because, like, at least during this season, because it's not always been like this, we are at a fairly level equilibrium of if she needs something, I'm there. If I need something, she's there. I'm in tune to what she's thinking. She's in tune to me. But that was hard to achieve. And it's not going to be like this season forever because soon, like, a kid's going to get sick or she's going to get sick again.
we
And
call them chapters.
chapters.
This is
Yeah.
a different chapter. You
Chapter
know,
4. She's cold and aloof.
going to well, and it does take a while to learn those things. Um, you know, it does take a while to learn your love languages. How I didn't know what love language was till 2 years ago, and we've been married for 12. So yeah. Um, not that I didn't already do some of those things. It just I was like, oh, okay, this actually makes sense. And
What is the biggest weight? What are the, how do I say this without sounding like a terrible husband? Um,
how do I rephrase this? How
I guess what is the most important thing that you are watching at all times to maintain balance? Is it your work? Is it your kids? Is it your marriage? Is it your faith?
hmm,
Like, what is the number one thing that you're watching?
it needs to be my faith, but it's not.
Give me the book answer then. Fine.
I don't know. Right? Hold on. What? Hold on. Let me look this up real quick. Whew. That's a good question because I think if you're so focused on one, you miss a couple. You know what I mean? But
Eh,
I think
fair.
if I had to narrow it down to one, it's focusing on my marriage
Same here.
because I figure if you're least focused on your marriage, it's kind of like it's a happy house and it's hard if you're focused on that part of things. Then the kids, the kids' balls you're juggling there. It's gonna be harder to drop because you're both if you're focused on your marriage, you got really good communication, right? It's a big part of marriage. We haven't said that word, big part of life and balance and communication. But I think if you're gonna focus strictly on one, um, it would probably have to be marriage. And I just think that if you're focused on that, you're pretty well covered on a lot of it. And then it also goes back to your priorities. Is your priorities, are you married to your job? No, you're not. You're married to your wife, and um, life is more important.
And how
And
long are the kids going to be in the house, right?
right,
Like seeing my parents as we all moved out of the house, seeing my in-laws, your parents, a lot of my other friends with their parents, as like you don't think about it because your entire like even now, the majority of our life was in our parents' houses. Even now, until we're in our 40s, most of our life was under our parents' roof.
right,
But in the grand scheme of 60, 70, 80 years, that's one fourth. So I 100% think it should be marriage. I mean, it should be faith. I suck at that. That's 100% true. But outside of that, your kids are watching.
yeah,
So for your girls, do you want them to marry a man like you? Do you want do you want to be an example of a man that they will one day find? Because that's what they're going to do. They're either going to look at you and be like, I never want to get married, or they're going to look at you and be like, I want to find a man like that.
right,
And if you're doing your job right, that's what happens. Um, I think we owe it to our families, to our kids, to be what they deserve and what we want them to have down the road. Because this is like the tryouts. They're watching. Oh, okay. So he's really nice when he's in public, but he's kind of a jerk in private. He's he's so focused on work he could give a crap if it's mom's birthday, or he could give a crap about saying I love you, or then that's the man that they might marry one day. And
yeah,
I'll murder somebody that treats my my daughters bad. So
yeah. My, and um, no, you're 100% right. Your kids are a sponge, and they take in a lot more than you think.
too much.
Way too much. Um, it's funny because I kind of use that as in my parenting style. That makes sense in this way of I had a great childhood. Don't get me wrong. I had a great childhood. I love my mom to death. My dad though was not. He was here. He went to work. He provided for us, but he wasn't your typical dad. He wasn't like your dad. Your dad, I think, is the not. I wouldn't say typical, but he taught you a lot of life lessons. He let you hold the flashlight so he could yell at you, type of. You know what I mean? When my dad, I didn't get a lot of that stuff, unfortunately. Um, and I knew when I became a father what I wanted to be like. You know what I mean?
So
So, uh,
good.
but I took that, and I think that's especially when you see an example, whether it's you and your to your parents or your kids to you, either kids take it and run with it, or I take it and run with it. Oh, this is how men are supposed to be, or you go, I'm going to be the opposite. You know what I mean? I'm going to be better. And so I did. I mean, and I think that too is also because they say nowadays fathers are spending time with their kids like 1,000,000% more time with their kids
That's what I
than
just wrote down. I think that's a good podcast
yeah.
topic of why. I think
Oh.
you kind of alluded to it, but I think like I've gotten a lot of mentors, like Gen X mentors, um, a couple boomers that are still in the workforce,
Get off my yard.
and they they all they talk out both sides of their mouth where I need you to work so hard and sacrifice, but then they'll also say, you know
Work-life balance.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, doesn't
So
exist here.
yeah, and the way I strike that balance is I say there are times that I have to ask my family, can you do this without me? And then I focus my attention on work. But there are times that I have to be comfortable saying, I don't care about you, work. I'm going to focus on family. Which that doesn't mean I get to skip out early. That just means I'm not going to stay late.
Yeah.
That just means I'm not going to purposefully pick up more work. Or if my boss asks me to do above and beyond, I'll be like, I can't.
Yeah.
But that comes at a sacrifice of, promotions or opportunities or cool stuff or whatever. But you have to be comfortable with that. And I think what we learned in our childhood is, and I hear it from my dad now, it's all for nothing. Like that paper you turned in that was perfect doesn't matter. No one remembers that 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 schedule you built that worked better than ever and everyone loved already got changed again. Like
Yeah.
you can do a lot and get lots of credibility and everyone at work can love you and just say, man, you're always on top of everything. But they don't care about you once they go home. Why
Yeah.
would they?
Once they punch that, like they punch that time clock.
Because they just want to go home to their families. The kids will remember when you're not there.
Yeah.
Your coworkers won't.
I'm a big believer, especially in the trucking industry. I can make a lot of money going over the road.
Yep.
I can. Actually, let me tell you a story real quick. We're already an hour and a half in. Tell you a story real quick. I used to work for Benny Keith Food Division,
Yep.
so which where I got my CDL. Um, and I delivered the food, drove the 18 wheelers, delivered the food. Well, I used to sometimes deliver to the Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, and it was cool because you drove under the stadium. You had to get there early, but the guys wouldn't show up until I would have to be there around 5 in the morning to hit my dock. But the guys didn't show up till like 8 o'clock in the morning to check the food. So you get 3 hours of just chilling. I walk on the field, it's pitch. There's lights on, but it's some me time, whatever. Well, one time I go to deliver, and they're setting up a Taylor Swift concert. So there's other trucks there, and it's just chaos. They're putting up the Raptors and the lights, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's an older gentleman, probably about in the late 50s, early 60s, and he's like, you talking about how he only works 8 months of the year. He follows Taylor Swift's tour around, and he just drives the truck, hits the dock, they unload it, they load it back up. He makes he makes almost $200,000 in those 8 months, and has three houses, and he's just like, this. It's great. But then he looks at me and he goes, "You got a wife?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You got kids?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You're living the life." He's like, "My three houses are empty." He's like, "You don't want this life." And
Yep.
I already knew that, right? Like that because of my priorities. I
Yep.
won't do over the road. I won't be in the oil field. If I was single all day, I'd make bank. My priorities are set straight. My family is first. My wife is first. I used to tell guys all the time, Benny Keith working nights, you could easily make 120, 130, 140,000 a year, but you're never home. Like you're home every day, but you're when I worked for Benny Keith, it was
You're
come
dead.
home. Yeah. You come home, take a shower, eat, and go right to bed. You're not there. And these guys want to chase the money. And I'm like, don't ever chase money over your family. Time, let me tell you this, guys. Time is the most important thing you got on this world.
Yeah.
Not money, not fancy cars, not big houses. Time. Spend it where it needs to be spent. Spend it wisely.
Because you can't buy more of it.
You can't. And then we don't know when our time's up. My time might be longer than yours. My time might be really short. Spend it wisely. Um, work life balance, and the way I try and do it is, I know that it's ever changing. I know that it's going to be a sometimes day by day, sometimes week by week type of thing. And to have it though, you've got to have your priorities set. You've got to have some goals written down, and how you achieve those goals could be completely different paths. Like me and Caleb. Caleb took the military path, where nothing wrong with that. Fantastic. Look where he's at now. He's military man, provides for his wife and kids and everything, and he had that plan. Boom. And where I kind of, I wouldn't say winged it, but I worked hard. I found jobs that were going to get me to where I wanted to be. And um, they both come with sacrifices. They both come with hard work and dedication. And um, just make sure you got those priorities set straight, and work on getting it. And um, I think you put in there rack and stack, baby, rack and stack.
Yeah,
um,
the really what I meant by rack and stack, and that next one was like, if your priorities are like mine, faith, wife, kids, work, your own health, your own things like that,
we didn't even
then
get into that. What do you do for yourself? That's a
yeah,
different
that's
question.
a
Yeah.
whole different one. But if you know that, well, sometimes priority 3 is going to have to pull from priorities 1 and 2, and
Mhm.
acknowledge that you suck at this, but just look at yourself, look in the mirror, say, all right, I want to be a good husband, a good father. I want I want to make more money. Maybe to do this, I'll do a sprint. I'll work really hard. I'll do some extra stuff for a short period of time. But nothing should be sacrificing from those top. And if if you can't do it because, hey, I can't work late, I can't work more to make more money because the kid's sick, or my wife's working too, and she's, we're doing the whole handing the kid off,
Yeah.
swapping schedules, because a lot of people have to do that. Um, it's just about finding grace and being like, we will survive this together. Because if you're not getting through the trials with like, hey, however this goes, we'll get there. We'll get there together on the other side. Then
Right.
you didn't strike balance. Don't know how, but something went wrong along the way.
Somewhere along the way.
Yep.
Um, and I think a lot of it goes back. Make sure you find a good one to spend the rest of your life with. All right, guys, that was episode number 1 of the DadBod Podcast. Hope you liked it. We talked about life balance. Probably got a little bit off balance in the topic there ourselves, but this is Brian and Caleb, we're gonna do a monthly episode. We hope you enjoy it. Caleb, any last words?
Outside of what did we say before? If you don't want talking about wrapping up, if you don't want kids, wrap it up.
Oh
The
man.
best advice we got out of this whole episode.
All right, guys. God bless and keep it outspoken.